Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're putting on our market analysis hats and taking a close look at a really significant global industry, automotive catalytic converters.
That's right. We've got a pretty detailed market research report here, and it's packed with info about where this market stands and where it seems to be heading.
So our goal in this deep dive is basically to pull out the key insights for you. We want to get a handle on the market's current size, its expected growth, and how that's all distributed across the world.
Exactly. We're trying to understand the underlying dynamics of this really crucial part of the auto sector. What's driving it? What are the surprising bits?
Okay, let's dive right into the big picture then. The sheer scale.
Hmm.
It's quite something. For 2025, the global market is projected to hit USD 145,241.5 million. That's huge.
It really is. And get this, by 2033, it's expected to nearly double. We're talking USD 287,285.53 million.
Wow. That works out to a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR, of 8.90%,
Yeah.
that's pretty substantial growth.
Yeah, it is, especially when you think about, the whole electric vehicle revolution supposedly happening.
Right. That's the figure that makes you pause. An 8.9% CAGR. It tells you how fast things are expanding year on year. Seems counterintuitive, doesn't it?
It does seem like a contradiction on the surface. But, despite all the momentum behind EVs, this report clearly shows strong continued growth for catalytic converters, at least in the medium term.
So the shift to electric isn't happening quite as fast as some headlines might suggest.
Well, it underscores that it's not an overnight switch. Internal combustion engines and the converters they need, they're still, dominant globally for now.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's break down where this is all happening. Geographically speaking, North America is the current heavyweight, right, for 2025?
Yeah, it holds the largest share, over 40%. The market size there is projected at USD 42,120.04 million.
And it's still growing.
It is, yeah. A projected CAGR of 7.9% between 2025 and 2033. Healthy growth.
And the U.S. makes up most of that.
The lion's share, absolutely. About USD 33,232.71 million in 2025 for the U.S. alone, with a 7.7% HER. Canada and Mexico make up the rest, with slightly higher KGRs, actually, 8.7% and 8.4% respectively.
So what's keeping North America so strong? Is it just the number of cars?
It's partly the large existing fleet of gasoline cars, definitely, but also you've got relatively strict emission standards there, mandating these converters. Plus, there's growing environmental awareness driving things, too.
And the continued growth, even if it's maybe a bit slower than other places, suggests people are still buying new combustion engine cars. And importantly, replacing converters on older ones.
Exactly. The aftermarket is a big factor there. Plus, hybrids still need them.
Okay, next up, Europe. Another major player holding over 30%.
That's right. Market size around USD 53,739.36 million and a projected CAGR of 7.4%. See, slightly slower growth than North America overall, but still very significant.
And within Europe, Germany's the biggest.
Germany leads, yes.
Yeah.
About USD 10,640.39 million with a 7.6% CAGR. The UK is next, around USD 9,028.21 million, growing a bit faster at 8.2%.
And the drivers in Europe. Similar story, regulations.
Very much so. Europe's commitment to environmental rules, the Euro standards, that's a huge driver. Plus a strong focus on sustainability generally.
And again, even with the push for EVs, the sheer number of existing cars and hybrids keeps that market substantial.
Precisely. The transition takes time.
Okay, now,
Where's
the real acceleration happening? The report points to Asia-Pacific, APAC.
Ah, yes, APAC. Currently holds around 23% of the market, so smaller than North America or Europe right now. About USD 34,857.96 million in 2025.
The growth rate.
That's the key. The highest projected CAGR by far at 11.7%.
Wow. And China's the big player there.
Dominant force, yeah. USD 14,640.34 million market size, with an 11.2% CAGR. But look at India showing exceptionally rapid growth, 13.6% CAGR.
13.6%. What's fueling that kind of growth in APAC?
It's really a combination of factors. You've got rapid industrialization, which means, simply put, more vehicles on the road.
Right. More cars, trucks.
Exactly. And at the same time, as these economies develop, there's a growing awareness of pollution, environmental issues, leading to stricter environmental policies being put in place.
So more vehicles needing to meet tougher standards, that's a powerful combination.
It really is. It's creating this huge growth engine. India's particularly high rate probably reflects where it is in its development curve and adopting stricter emission norms, maybe from a lower starting point
Uh,
compared to China.
That makes sense. It signifies a real shift in global emissions focus too, doesn't it?
Absolutely. These nations are demanding cleaner air tech like catalytic converters, and that's driving the market hard.
Okay, what about the other regions? South America?
A more modest share, just over 5%. Market size around USD 5,519.18 million, but still, a healthy KGR projected at 9.6%. Brazil leads the way there.
And the Middle East and Africa.
Yeah.
Smaller markets currently.
Right, Middle East around 2%, Africa around 1%. But look at their growth potential CAGRs of 10.2% for the Middle East and 9.2% for Africa.
So similar drivers there too. Increasing vehicle sales and stricter rules coming in.
Generally, yes. It often reflects increasing vehicle ownership as economies grow, combined with a gradual tightening of environmental regs. The higher CAGRs suggest they're sort of catching up, adopting the tech faster as they align with standards in more mature markets.
Okay, so stepping back a bit, it's clear that even with the long-term EV shift, some powerful forces are driving this market now. That contradiction we mentioned earlier stands out.
It really does. The growing demand, despite the EV transition, it highlights the difference between, short-term market realities and the long-term trajectory.
The existing fleet isn't just vanishing overnight.
Exactly. Those cars have a lifespan, they need parts, including replacement converters. And hybrid vehicles, a growing segment themselves, they also rely on catalytic converters.
And the report mentioned the aftermarket.
Yes, a significant and expanding role for the aftermarket sector. Older vehicles needing replacements generate substantial ongoing demand.
And it's not just about volume, but also innovation, right? Nanotechnology and new materials.
Absolutely crucial. To meet ever-tightening emissions rules and improve fuel efficiency, there's constant R&D. Nanotech, for instance, can create materials with vastly more surface area at a microscopic level.
Which makes the catalytic reaction much more efficient.
Precisely. And new materials can offer better resistance to the harsh conditions inside an exhaust system, high heat, corrosive gases making them last longer.
Of course, it can't all be smooth sailing. The report flags some restraints too. The big one, obviously, is the long-term threat from EVs.
That's the elephant in the room, yes. The pace of EV adoption by consumers and pushed by regulations will ultimately shape the long-term future for catalytic converters.
It's the big question mark hanging over the industry.
It is. But as the growth projections show, this transition looks gradual. It gives the converter market a pretty substantial window to, adapt, maybe focus more on aftermarket or even find other applications.
What other potential headwinds are there? The report mentioned precious metal prices.
Ah, yes. Platinum, palladium, rhodium. These are the key active ingredients, and their prices can be incredibly volatile.
That must directly impact production costs.
Hugely. Sharp price hikes put serious pressure on manufacturers. It can really influence market dynamics.
And it probably drives research into alternatives.
Definitely. It underscores why finding cheaper catalytic materials is important, and also why there's such a big focus now on efficient recycling and recovery of these metals from old converters.
Speaking of the future, what about key trends? Lightweight, high-performance converters for better fuel efficiency.
That makes perfect sense. Lighter car components mean better fuel economy overall. Reducing the converter's weight contributes directly to that.
And high performance means they still work effectively even if they're smaller or lighter.
Exactly. They need to treat exhaust gases effectively to meet those strict regulations, even with optimized design.
So we touched on recycling. That's a major trend now, recovering those precious metals.
A very significant one. It's becoming a crucial part of the supply chain. Think about it. It reduces reliance on mining, which is energy intensive and has environmental impact.
And it could potentially help stabilize the costs of the metals themselves. A win-win, sort of?
You could say that. It aligns perfectly with broader sustainability goals, resource conservation, reducing environmental footprints.
Okay, let's dig into the specifics of the converters themselves. Different types. The report says three-way oxidation reduction converters are dominant.
They hold the largest market share currently, yes. These are the standard for gasoline engines.
Because they tackle the main pollutants, not CO and hydrocarbons.
Correct. Nitrogen oxides, carbon monoxide, and hydrocarbons. Stringent regulations on all three in major markets like North America and Europe basically mandate their use. They convert those into less harmful stuff. Nitrogen, CO2, water.
Interesting, though. The report says diesel oxidation catalytic converters are the fastest growing segment. That seems odd with all the negativity around diesel cars.
It does seem counterintuitive, but it's driven by the need for cleaner diesel vehicles. especially in commercial applications, trucks, buses, off-road equipment.
Ah, so not necessarily passenger cars.
Less so passenger cars in some regions where that market is declining, but heavy-duty transport, construction, that still relies heavily on diesel, and the emissions rules for those vehicles are getting much stricter globally.
Okay, that clarifies it. What about the materials inside these converters?
Okay.
Platinum holds the biggest share.
Yes, platinum is very effective, especially at oxidizing CO and hydrocarbons. Plus, it's got great thermal stability. It can handle the heat.
So despite the cost, its performance keeps it key.
Pretty much. It's crucial in both gasoline and diesel converters.
But palladium is expanding rapidly as a cheaper alternative.
It's seen increased use, yeah, particularly in gasoline converters. It's also effective for oxidizing hydrocarbons and CO, and sometimes its price is more favorable than platinum's.
So there's ongoing work to use more palladium, maybe substitute it where possible.
Absolutely. Managing costs is always a priority, so optimizing the mix of precious metals or finding ways to use less overall is constant research focus, like that BASF example later.
Right. And finally, vehicle types. No surprise, passenger vehicles are the biggest market chunk.
Straightforward reflection of just how many cars are produced and owned globally. Yeah, that's the bulk of the demand.
But the fastest growing vehicle segment for converters is medium and heavy-duty trucks.
Yes, and that ties right back to what we just discussed about diesel oxidation catalysts and the tightening regulations on commercial vehicle emissions.
Plus, more logistics, e-commerce,
Yeah.
more trucks needed generally.
Exactly. All feeding into that rapid growth for converters in the heavy-duty segment.
It really sounds like a dynamic, highly competitive industry then. Companies pushing technology, forming partnerships.
Definitely. Innovation is key to survival and growth. The report gives those couple of examples from March 2020.
Yeah, BASF's trimetal catalyst, allowing partial replacement of palladium with platinum. So flexibility depending on metal prices.
Precisely. A way to manage cost volatility. And the other one, Vitesco Technologies, with electric heating for diesel converters.
Right, helping them work better during cold starts, reducing NOx and CO2 significantly.
These examples just highlight that ongoing push, developing more cost-effective solutions, improving performance, meeting those ever-tougher standards. Tech breakthroughs and partnerships are vital.
Okay, so let's try and wrap up this deep dive. The global automotive catalytic converter market. Well, it's substantial, and it's still growing significantly.
Especially in the Asia-Pacific region, yeah. Driven mainly by environmental regulations getting tighter and just more vehicles being produced worldwide.
And while the long-term rise of EVs is definitely a challenge, maybe the challenge.
The market's not standing still. It's actively innovating new materials, better designs, and the aftermarket, replacing converters on existing cars, remains a really vital and growing part of it all.
It's navigating a really complex transition period. Electrification is the future, sure, but converters are critical now and for the near future.
Which means continuous innovation and smart adaptation are absolutely necessary for the companies involved.
So here's a final thought for you, our listeners, to chew on. Thinking about sustainability and the fact that these precious metals are finite resources, how might this industry fundamentally change in the coming decades?
Yeah, good question. Will better recycling and finding new materials be enough to keep the market going as alternative powertrains take over?
Or could we see totally new business models emerge? Maybe focused entirely on recovering, refining, and reusing these critical metals as the whole automotive landscape shifts.
Lots to think about there. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.